Those who act like envy isn't a real thing are typically the ones orchestrating envious attacks. And by default, dissecting a taboo topic such as envy, it can naturally come off for some people as someone being arrogant when they acknowledge the fact that they are on the receiving end of envious attacks. But the purpose of this platform and talking a little bit about resources that dissects envy in detail is understanding arrogance is completely different from someone being aware. A lot of the time, people have, a bone to pick with individuals who are glorifying and glamorizing having quote unquote haters. And they're conflating those individuals with people who acknowledge the fact that they are on the receiving end of envious attacks. Typically, when someone is on the receiving end of an envious attack, nothing about that process is glorifying. It's very isolating. People typically find themselves in stop and start seasons because they try to build something, but because they have an envious person in their immediate environment, that person's constantly sabotaging their progress, whether it be through reputation ruining. I think that we see that often, on social media, people putting a bad story out about someone or talking negatively about someone. And from that moment moving forward, it's difficult for that person to sustain or establish a new social network. So I think it's important for us to not negate or disregard the conversation relevant to understanding how envy presents itself amongst a professional environment, a platonic relationship, even a familial or romantic relationship, because you don't want to set people up for failure. Another thing to note is just because you have not seen it in your own life, or maybe you haven't seen it happen amongst those who are close to you, just because it's not a reality for you, that doesn't mean it's not a reality for another person. So make sure that you're not invalidating or discrediting people's real life experience, because sometimes that can block a person from receiving the necessary assistance for them to break free from a toxic individual. And I think we can all agree someone who is trying to sabotage you out of envy would be classified as a toxic person who you may need to set boundaries with. But to elaborate a little bit further, I'm actually going to read an excerpt in this publication right here, which dissects envy in detail. Many of us may be familiar with jealousy, as it is a common human emotion. This is a common emotion and often passes. When one is experiencing a moment of jealousy, it's typically fleeting, and they can gracefully move on and not hold a grudge. Contrarily, when one is envious, they will harbor something to the point it is unhealthy. An envious individual will obsess and fixate until they achieve what they want, even if it means hurting someone else or stepping outside of integrity. When a person has been overcome with envy, they become relentless and ruthless, which can be extremely dangerous for an individual receiving such wrath. When a person learns how to identify envy, the intense opposition they face in certain settings will begin to make sense, and they will learn how to navigate such hostility.